"You destroyed our lives," Dad bellowed outside the courtroom. I presented the judge with a 2015 scholarship letter bearing my name. It promised a full ride. My parents' faces drained of color. I'm Noah, 28 years old, and my own parents took me to court, accusing me of draining their non-existent retirement savings. Before I reveal how a single overlooked online post from 10 years ago unraveled their entire case before the judge, please share in the comments where you're reading this from. I'm curious to know how far this tale travels. It all started after we finished a major software overhaul at work. The office buzzed with a shared sense of triumph and relief. For the first time in weeks, I left before the sun dipped below the horizon. As a senior software engineer, I thrived in the orderly, predictable realm of code. You input a command, and it executes. There's logic, structure, a sharp contrast to the chaos brewing in my personal life. Driving home, I felt a warm glow of achievement, a sensation I'd pursued for years. That morning, I'd made the final payment on my mortgage, officially owning my first apartment outright, well ahead of schedule. It wasn't a mansion, just a one-bedroom condo in a decent part of town. But it was my fortress. Every wall, every window stood as a testament to years of budget meals, skipped trips, and relentless focus on one goal. Total independence, financial, emotional, and absolute. Entering my apartment, the smell of fresh paint and new possibilities lingered. I tossed my keys into a ceramic dish by the door, a small but meaningful ritual. This was my home. I smiled, surveying the sparse furniture and unopened boxes. I'd made it. That night I celebrated quietly, no lavish meal or party, just me, a hot pepperoni pizza in its greasy box, and a chilled drink. Sitting on the floor, leaning against the wall, I scrolled through my phone when the intercom buzzed. A courier had a certified letter requiring my signature. Assuming it was the final deed from the county, I jogged downstairs, signed with a flourish, and carried the formal envelope back up. In my apartment, I tore it open. The letterhead read Carson, Blake and Partners, a law firm I didn't recognize. My brow furrowed. I knew no Carson or Blake. Then I saw the opening line. On behalf of our clients, Richard and Alina Jones. My stomach sank. My parents. Why were they using a law firm to reach me? My eyes scanned the document, legal jargon swirling. Phrases like breach of oral agreement and unjust enrichment stung like venom. They demanded immediate repayment of parent plus student loans taken for my education. My pulse raced, pounding against my chest. I kept reading, my breath catching. The letter listed loan disbursements for every college semester, fall 2015, spring 2016, and beyond, totaling a staggering $154,212 plus interest. I reread the figure, certain my eyes were lying. It was a sum that could devour my savings, my apartment, my life. The final line shattered me. Failure to arrange payment within 30 days would lead to legal action, including property liens and wage garnishment. They were targeting my home, my salary, everything I'd fought for. I slumped against the wall, the letter shaking in my hands. The world tilted. This wasn't a mistake. The formal tone and deadline were a declaration of war. My parents, meant to be my biggest allies, had aimed a financial cannon at me and threatened to fire. I sat there for what felt like hours. The pizza cooled, the drink warmed, and the silence of my new home turned heavy, suffocating. One question screamed in my mind. Why? To grasp the gut-wrenching shock of that letter, you need to know the narrative my parents crafted for me, one I naively believed for a decade. It was a tale of their sacrifice, my compromise, and our shared effort. It was also a complete lie. 10 years ago, I was 18, my life revolving around one shining ambition, Stanford University. It wasn't just about prestige. I was drawn to their engineering program, its professors, and its innovative spirit. It felt like my destiny. I poured everything into my application, skipping weekends for SAT prep, foregoing parties for AP coursework, and writing a heartfelt essay. When the acceptance letter arrived, thick and promising, my hands trembled as I opened it in the driveway. The first word I saw was congratulations. Pure joy burst from me. I rushed inside, waving the letter like a trophy. I got in, Mom, Dad, Stanford. Their response was lukewarm, a warning sign I was too elated to notice. My mother, Alina, arranging flowers on the coffee table, offered a strained smile. That's great, sweetheart. My father, Richard, sat at his desk, paying bills. He removed his glasses, rubbed his nose, a gesture I later recognized as a sign of calculation, and said, "That's a big achievement, son, but we need to be practical." I mentioned the generous financial aid package, my excitement fading to confusion. They sat me down at the kitchen table for what they called a reality check. Dad pulled out a legal pad and calculator, scribbling numbers. Tuition, room, board, insurance, travel, books. He inflated every cost, creating a daunting total. "Noah," Mom said, her hand on mine, gentle but cutting, "the scholarship is wonderful, but it's only partial. It covers a lot, but there's still a huge gap we can't afford." The numbers looked overwhelming. "Are you sure?" I asked. "Maybe we can get loans." Dad shook his head with fatherly wisdom. "We don't want you buried in debt for decades, and our credit can't handle a loan that size." Another lie. "The state university here is a great engineering school," he said, tapping his pen. "You can live at home. We'll help with paperwork, maybe take out small loans in our name. We'll do this together." My Stanford dream died quietly at that table. I felt ashamed, like I'd failed by not earning a full scholarship, burdening my parents. "Okay," I mumbled, staring at the table. "State school's fine." They were my parents. Why would they deceive me? The next chapter of their scheme unfolded later. My older brother, Ethan, was kind but no scholar, coasting through high school with average grades. One evening, my parents called a family meeting, beaming. "We have amazing news," Mom announced. "Ethan's been accepted to an elite private university on the East Coast." I was stunned. "Wait, I thought we couldn't afford expensive schools?" Dad puffed out his chest. "Your mother and I have been planning creatively. We're investing in Ethan's future. It'll mean sacrifices, delaying retirement, maybe selling the house, but he deserves the best." The double standard was glaring. They could fund Ethan's private school, but deemed my Stanford dream impossible. I glanced at Ethan. He stared at his feet, cheeks flushed. He sensed something was wrong, but stayed silent, accepting their gift built on my sacrifice. The next few years were grueling. I enrolled at the state university, living at home to save money. My life was a cycle of classes, homework, and jobs, bussing tables at a diner, the stench of burnt coffee and onions clinging to me, and working weekends at a warehouse, my body aching. I'd come home exhausted, studying late for engineering exams. Meanwhile, Ethan texted about his fancy college life, complaining about dining hall food, sharing photos from fraternity ski trips or spring break in Mexico. He lived the college experience I'd dreamed of, funded by my parents' sacrifice. I swallowed resentment daily, but used it as fuel, vowing to work so hard I'd never rely on anyone again. I graduated top of my class, landed a great job, earned promotions, and saved diligently. Buying my apartment was more than a purchase. It was my declaration of freedom, the end of a long race. But that letter turned the finish line into the start of a darker marathon. I needed help, a professional. I called Rachel, a college friend from our tight-knit thermodynamics study group. Brilliant and sharp, she'd gone to a top law school. We hadn't spoken in years, but I trusted her. We met at a downtown cafe. Handing her the letter felt like exposing family secrets. She read it, her warm smile shifting to focused intensity. "Parent plus loans," she said quietly. "Tricky. Legally, the debt's theirs, but they can sue you in civil court, claiming a verbal contract or unjust enrichment. It's your word against theirs." "There was no contract," I said, voice shaking. "They said it was a gift." Rachel leaned in, eyes locked on mine. "Noah, parents don't just sue their kid for $150,000 out of nowhere. Something's off. Let's start at the beginning. Tell me about that Stanford scholarship, every detail." I recounted the painful story, the thick acceptance packet, my parents' oddly muted reaction, the legal pad with exaggerated costs, their claim it was only a partial scholarship. Rachel listened, never breaking eye contact. After I finished, she sat quietly for a minute, staring at the letter. Then she spoke, deliberate and clear. "Noah, I need you to think carefully. Are you absolutely sure it was a partial scholarship? Did you ever see a document, email, or letter from Stanford saying it was partial? Or did you just trust them?" The question hung heavy. I opened my mouth to say I'd trusted them, they were my parents, but I froze. Dad had taken the letter and they'd read it together, heads bent in secrecy. I never saw the financial aid details clearly. A chilling dread hit me, like the ground I'd stood on my whole life was crumbling. "I don't know," I whispered. "I never checked, I believed them." Rachel nodded, her expression grim. "Then this lawsuit isn't the real fight, it's a symptom. The real fight is finding out what they hid 10 years ago. We need to know now." The days after meeting Rachel buzzed with nervous energy. The fog of betrayal began to clear, replaced by a sharp, determined focus. I wasn't just a victim anymore. I was a detective investigating my own past. Following Rachel's advice, I became an archaeologist of my history. I contacted the state university's financial aid office, requesting a full record of my student loans. The staff promised to send the documents within a week. Then I called Stanford, a call that felt like reopening an old wound. My hand shook as I dialed admissions. After 3 transfers, I reached someone in the scholarship office. I explained my legal situation, requesting proof of my 2015 scholarship offer. The man, Mr. Larson, sounded weary. "That's 10 years ago. Those records are archived and our privacy rules are strict. I can't release anything over the phone." Desperation crept into my voice. "Please, this isn't just about money, it's about the truth," he sighed. "I'll look, but no promises. You'll need a formal request from you or your lawyer." I gave him my details and hung up, feeling like I'd tossed a note into a vast, uncaring sea. That evening, my phone rang. Mom. I nearly declined, but curiosity won. Her voice was syrupy, setting off alarms. "Noah, darling, your father and I are so worried. This lawyer mess is a misunderstanding. Come to dinner tomorrow, just us. We'll fix this as a family." Part of me, the 18-year-old craving their approval, wanted to agree. But Rachel's warning echoed, "They're not on your side." "I don't think that's wise, Mom," I said flatly. "Don't be silly," she replied, voice steady. "We love you. I'll make your favorite roast." "Please, Noah." Against my better judgment, I agreed, treating it like a scouting mission. I'd listen, observe, and give nothing away. I wanted to see if I could spot the deception in their eyes. Dinner was a strange performance. The house smelled of roast and nostalgia. Dad played the silent, wounded father. Mom stole the show, avoiding the lawsuit but pulling out photo albums, pointing to pictures of a younger, grinning me. "Look how happy we were," she said, tears perfectly timed. "I just want that back. We're not getting younger, Noah. Your father's retirement fund took a hit in the last crash. We're scared." Then came the pivot, smooth and rehearsed. Her hand touched mine, cold. "We're so proud of your success, honey. We just need a little help. A son we gave everything to, that's not too much to ask, is it?" It was expert emotional manipulation, burying me in guilt to make me pay. I pushed food around my plate, stomach knotted. I saw the trap, the strings they pulled. Muttering about an early meeting, I fled, their sighs trailing me. In my car, I called Rachel. "It was a guilt ambush," I said, gripping the wheel. "They're trying to break me." "Good," she replied sharply. "That's desperation. Their case is weaker than they admit. Hold firm, Noah. Our evidence is coming." Days later, the first piece arrived, a thick envelope from the state university. With trembling hands, I opened it, finding a detailed loan history. There in stark print were 4 years of Parent Plus loans, maxed out each semester, matching their claimed total. For a moment, my heart sank. It looked damning. Then I recalled Rachel's other advice. I researched IRS rules for the American Opportunity Tax Credit during my college years. The AOTC offered up to $2,500 annually for actual educational expenses paid. The key was paid. I needed their tax returns. Heart pounding, I called Dad, feigning confusion. "My accountant needs old records to check educational credits from my college years. Can you send your tax returns from then?" "Just for my files." A long pause. "Why do you need that?" he asked, wary. "Just what the accountant said, to avoid IRS issues. No big deal, right?" He grumbled but agreed. An hour later, the returns landed in my inbox. I sent them to Rachel. 20 minutes later, she called, triumphant. "They claimed the maximum credit every year. If they used loan money, that's fine. But if your tuition was covered by a scholarship they knew about, they didn't just lie to you, they defrauded the government. This is our leverage." It was a win, but it felt vile. I was building a case against my parents for tax fraud, each clue eroding my world's foundation. The next day, another bombshell hit. An email arrived, subject, "Stanford University response." My breath caught. It was from Alan Grant, head of scholarship awards. He'd found my file. "Dear Mr. Jones, I've located your 2015 admission and scholarship record. Attached is a notarized affidavit confirming you, Noah Jones, received the G.H. Redmond Merit Scholarship. A full-ride award covering tuition, fees, room, and board for 4 years. Our records show notification was emailed to the primary address on your application, eleanorjones88@mail.com. Best wishes resolving your matter. Sincerely, Alan Grant." I stared, numb, full ride. My hand shook as I opened the PDF, a formal document with Stanford's seal, stating the truth in undeniable terms. They'd lied, not a mistake, but a deliberate, life-altering betrayal. They'd hidden my golden ticket, letting me toil for years, feeling inferior for a failure that wasn't mine. They'd watched me struggle, knowing my freedom was in their inbox. They did it to fund Ethan's elite school. then dared to sue me for the money the scholarship saved them. Grief and confusion vanished, replaced by a cold, searing fury I'd never known. This wasn't just about protecting my home or income. It was about reclaiming a stolen past, delivering justice for the 18-year-old they betrayed. I called Rachel, my voice steady. "I've got it, the proof." A brief pause. "Good," she said, voice sharp. "We're done defending, now we fight back." With Stanford's affidavit, I felt unstoppable, imagining presenting it in court and watching their case collapse. The truth was mine, victory seemed certain. But the legal system isn't a truth engine. It's a machine, and their lawyer was a master at spinning lies. Rachel filed the affidavit with a motion to dismiss, citing fraud. We expected a swift end. Instead, their lawyer's response was a cunning rewrite. They claimed they never saw Stanford's email, lost in spam, a digital glitch. They argued they acted responsibly, taking loans as a safety net, believing I had only a partial scholarship. They weren't deceitful, just cautious parents. They claimed the loan's stress and cost entitled them to repayment. It was audacious, absurd, and it worked. The judge, seasoned and skeptical, denied our motion, saying their intent was a factual issue for trial. The victory I'd envisioned dissolved into a costly, shadowy path. Confidence turned to dread. The case wasn't just ongoing, it was growing. Stress became a constant fever, my first thought each morning and last at night. Work, once my sanctuary, became a struggle. I'd stare at code, my mind in court, imagining Mom testifying. I lost weight. Friends said I looked drained. My apartment, my symbol of freedom, felt like a trap. Legal bills piled up, a reminder of the cost of fighting a lie. One night I hit rock bottom. In the dark, staring at another bill, a tempting thought crept in: pay them. I could settle, arrange payments, sacrifice part of my salary for decades. It would be surrender, a win for their deception, but the chaos would stop. Bills, stress, all of it. I grabbed my phone, ready to call Rachel and concede. They'd broken me then. A faint memory flickered, a light in the void. Not the warm mother from photo albums, but the one typing late at night on our old computer, obsessed with an online forum, college-bound parents. She used a pompous username, spending hours sharing advice and boasting. A spark ignited. What if she bragged about my scholarship? It was a long shot. The forum was likely dead, the post lost, but it was a thread of hope. I grabbed my laptop, heart racing, and searched for the forum. A relic of the early internet appeared. Its search function was broken, archives corrupted. Hope faded, but my engineer's mind kicked in. If the front door's locked, try the back. I turned to the Wayback Machine, typing the forum's URL. A calendar showed snapshots of the site over years. I picked a date from 2015 and waited as the page loaded slowly. I scrolled, eyes burning, searching for her username, Proud Mama 88. Hours passed, my body ached, but I kept going, combing through threads about SATs and dorms. Just as exhaustion threatened to win, I found it in a subforum. College Wins and Woes. A thread titled Handling a Surprise Victory by Proud Mama 88. My heart pounded. I clicked. The post was short, a few lines, but it obliterated their case. The courtroom air was thick on trial day. The small, wood-paneled room smelled of dusty paper and stale air. I sat beside Rachel, my suit feeling like armor. My parents sat across the aisle, a hostile front. Mom, in a prim beige outfit, played the aggrieved mother. Dad sat rigid, face stern. Ethan, pale and uneasy, avoided my eyes. Their lawyer, Carson, in a sharp suit, spoke first, weaving a tale of my parents as selfless workers who sacrificed their future for their kids. He used words like duty, love, and family, painting them as victims. "These are honest people," he said, voice dripping with false sincerity, "who gave everything for their son.